start our powerful session one. We have 4 speakers in the session. To begin with, we have with us Dr. THERESIA BILOLA. She is a sustainability policy specialist, a climate reality leader, and deputy councillor at the Turku City Council. She is the co-founder of SGROW and also the founder of Sustainability Daily with Tea. Over to you, Dr. THERESIA BILOLA, for your session on implications of the 2022 IPCC report for businesses and investors.
Thank you very much. I hope everyone can hear me. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And thank you, Professor, for that wonderful speech. I don't know if I'm going to be able to say anything again because you have said a lot. And I agree very much with what you say. But let me add my bit. The more voices, the better. Let me try to share my screen. Okay, so this is this. I don't want to go into this. Apana did a good job with the introduction. I'll just go straight to the next slide. And this is how we are going to move today. These are the subtopics. So I'm going to talk about a bit about what is the IPCC report and what are the links to the SDGs and which SDGs. And then I'll give some pointers from that report. And then I'll also tell you about a women-led team that is trying to grow SMEs in sustainable and holistic ways, and also look at sustainability from a holistic perspective and the role of individuals, which is one of the topics that is very close to my heart. And then I'll conclude. So what is the IPCC report? It is the 6th of such reports, and it is done by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. It's a result of 34,000 studies, including 270 authors from 67 countries. And it's one of the most comprehensive examinations of how the effects of climate are intensifying, especially the risk for the resource-poor communities and future risks if we keep moving at the pace we are moving. And then it also, this year, it highlights some of the most effective and feasible ways of adapting to the changes and also mitigating them, and which groups of society are most vulnerable. So this report and the way I'm going to speak today, I'm going to focus on SDG 12 and 13. I am from Cameroon, but I live in Finland, in Europe. And we all know, we've seen also from the professor's presentation, that most developed countries are struggling with this SDG 12, with production and consumption. Purchasing power is high and people cannot control how they consume. It's use and throw, use and throw. But the other side of it is that 97% of top climate scientists agree that human-induced pollution is the main cause of global warming. But why is there very little action on this? This is what I want you to keep in mind as I speak. So these are some facts from the IPCC report. They were quite shocking facts, but not shocking for those who have been following the climate discussion. We don't have time anymore. Unless we act now, the remaining carbon budget allotted for this generation will run out already by 2027. So that's just a few years from now. And then one more thing that I want to highlight from this slide is the fact that a lot of people are talking about net zero carbon emissions by 2050, but that is not the end. The minimum we have to target now is to strive to deliver a 1.5 degree Celsius world in the next decade already. Net zero should not be our only destination. It is important that we have emissions already in the next decade. You will see why when I start talking about some of the effects of going at the pace we are going now. So basically, this is what is happening now in the business world. Business are comfortably doing this. They are putting suppliers on one hand, customers and employees. They are not communicating. But if you look at the picture on the other side of the screen, that is what is supposed to happen. Businesses are supposed to be linked to all these actors, to think about all of these things. But as a business, if you can't think about all this, it's difficult to define the extent of your climate impact, of your sustainability impact, of your social impact, or of any impact at all. So there is a need for more collaboration between these different actors in society when you are thinking about establishing a business, or when you are thinking about how to cooperate with other businesses. So these are some of the implications for businesses. I don't know, I'm seeing something else on my screen. Okay, yeah, so every business has to now look at adaptation, but they have to go beyond that strategy and consider the impacts on society. Like I already said, we have to focus more on adaptation and resilience strategies than just on trying to avoid climate change, because some of the effects are already here. They can't be avoided anymore. How do we adapt to this? How do our businesses adapt to this, and adapt in such a way that we are not making the situation worse? And then there is also in the atmosphere, after this IPCC report and all the reports that are coming out, there's going to be a new pace of more stringent rules. And this is going to be in the form of penalties or incentives. So as a business, to position yourself, you need to look at climate change from the point of how do I get incentives and avoid the penalties that will come as a result of these regulations. So you have to be future ready. You have to be more futuristic in the way you think. And I like this quote by the CEO of Investor Group on Climate Change. He says that institutional investors have systemic exposure to climate change risk. Unless emissions are reduced, extreme weather will have worsening impacts on property, infrastructure, agricultural production, and other climate-dependent industries. Climate change will also have direct impacts on sovereign credit risk, supply chains, the property market, insurance pricing, or wider economic conditions. So climate change is no longer just an environmental thing. It's also an economic issue that businesses have to look at, and investors also have to think about in their daily operations. More implications are that business now need to set a 1.5 degrees Celsius compatible target for each of their quarters, if a business is running in 4 quarters, each quarter has to have some target that is related to operating within the 1.5 degrees Celsius limit. There is no time to delay. As I already said, we have like up to 2030 to keep this in check. Not to stop it, but to keep it at a manageable level, because it's already at a point where it's out of hand. What we are doing now is managing so that we don't go even more out of hand than we have already gone. If a business value chain relies on agriculture, it will also be expected to address methane emissions. We talk a lot about emissions, but most people think about carbon. But if you are thinking agriculture, you have to think about methane emissions along your supply chain. And we know that a lot of regions are facing risk of food insecurity. So this is something that has to be taken into consideration very highly by any company that has agriculture anywhere along its supply chain. It's not necessarily for the farmers or those who are directly owning farms. It's also for retailers who retail these agricultural products. They have to think about how much methane their operations are going to cost. Agriculture is becoming one of the biggest sources of emission, but it's also a very vital sector for humans. We need to be able to balance that. And then we have to understand that every company's approach to sustainability carries significant financial, reputational, and regulatory implications. It was not so clear before, but right now it is, because even governments are not looking at businesses just from the point of economic growth. They are also looking at businesses from the point of what societal impacts do they have? What social impacts do they have? How do they contribute to the nationally determined targets for climate action? So ESG related investments are becoming extremely important, and the better you are positioned in ESG, then the easier it is for you to be competitive on the market. Now, in this slide, I am highlighting the fact that evaluations by companies should already think about investment trends. As you can see from the slide, social sustainability bond rise is high. You can see the progression between 2012 and 2021. You can see the importance of sustainability even for investors now. So if you're a business that is looking for investors, you have to think about what is the impact, is the sustainability impact that your company has. Have you looked at your environmental, social, and governance, different aspects that touch on your business? Have you looked at your supply chain and seen where there is a leakage of emissions, for instance? So you have to find ways to be able to evaluate your company's performance, because it is it's of growing importance. It's not just for governments, it's also for you if you are looking for investments for your company. And then I also want to highlight the fact that it seems that women are more attuned to social impact business, which is good news for most of us on this call. So these are some figures from different regions of the world. The first one is the female to male ratio for social entrepreneurs versus commercial entrepreneurs. And from here, you can see that it's only the Africa, Middle East and North Africa that have a different kind of figure. But if you look at the general thing, you will see that women are more involved in social impact businesses. That's something to think about. So if you are a woman founder and you're still on the edge, this is the trend. Don't think about it anymore. Think about the social impact of your business. That's where the world is going to, and you will find lots of support for that because there are already women who are doing this. And then I also noticed in my short research for this presentation, I also noticed that there is a growth in a position called sustainability head. And if you look at the statistics, most of these sustainability heads are women. It's not by chance that they are choosing women. There is a reason for that choice. So the key messages from this IPCC report are these. Health impacts of climate change are increasingly visible. We can't talk much about that. I listened to the presentations yesterday and even the one before me now, and you already heard about the health issues that are related to climate change. And then there are many adaptation options, but some losses are already irreversible. We have to keep that in our head. We have already lost some parts of the environment that we cannot make up for, but we can adapt to those changes. We can adapt, but only to a certain point. The effects of climate change are also increasingly unevenly distributed. The poor and the vulnerable communities are the ones that suffer the most, even though they have the lowest emissions. That's increasing inequalities that we are fighting to reduce. So climate change is also one source of social injustice. We can think, if you can't think about it as environment, at least think about it as social injustice. And we have seen from the IPCC report that every degree Celsius increase is dangerous, even if it's just 0.01 degrees Celsius, because we are already almost at the edge. I think for some regions, we are already at 1.2, 1.1 even. So every little increase right now is dangerous. So next, in this next slide, I want to look at women as social impact leaders, just because of the statistics that I saw, and also because I know our audience has a lot of women founders. So considering that gender equality is highly relevant from an ESG perspective, and given the observation already made of the growing relevance of good ESG, it's not a surprise that companies with an above average representation of women in management or on the board are outperforming those that don't have this characteristic. So that's one reason also why women should think about social impact business. It is also shown that companies with a greater share of women in management tend to score better in terms of ESG rankings than companies that do not. Also, the levels of company diversity display a correlation with the prevalence of ESG investing. A company's ESG rating affects its cost of capital, share price, and the role of growing significance. However, it is not only its sustainability investing approach that makes the company score highly on ESG criteria. There are other things as well. Now I'm going to talk to you about my team or our team, even though they are not all here. So we are a diverse group of women. Our company Esgrow is women from completely different backgrounds. You will not imagine how different our backgrounds are. And our meeting was kind of out of serendipity. We didn't plan it like that, but we complement each other. And this business was born out of the fact that we noticed that the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive in the EU is going to replace the Non-Financial Reporting Directive soon. And I live in Finland, where SMEs form the backbone of the economy. They are over 75% of the Finnish economy. So when these directives come into play, come December 2022, the big companies already have some form of sustainability plan, sustainability unit, and all of that. But the SMEs that are the backbone of the Finnish economy will be struggling with this. They wouldn't know where to start, or they wouldn't even have the resources to put into actually doing what these directives want. There will be expectations from these businesses, such as disclosing more on sustainability related information about their business models, about their strategy, about the supply chain. They will have to provide information for investors to compare with their peers, with expected capital flow towards companies, demonstrating a strong sustainability performance. They will have to transform how their business approach has changed in decision-making and how they share their stories with different stakeholders. All of this will be probably for SMEs that are like 2 or 3 people businesses. There are many of that in Finland, and they don't have these already made sustainability plans. So this is the market that we saw for Esgrow, and that's our first customer. But we are also working beyond Finland, but that was the starting point for us to help these SMEs to adapt to the new directives that are going to come into place soon. So we offer consultancy services for supply chain sustainability reports, public image, corporate social responsibility data, roadmaps for resource efficiency. At least I was privileged to be part of drawing the city of Turku's roadmap for circular economy. So I know a bit about what it means to be resource efficient, or what it means to plan for resource efficiency. Then we deliver social sustainability reports, ESG strategies, circular economy strategies, market research related to sustainability, and education status reports for companies. We have a proven track record of successful projects from some countries: Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Cameroon, Nigeria, Zambia, Ghana, and a bit in the UAE. Our most recent project was to look at how to establish an open university course for agro-entrepreneurship in Zambia. The background for this is that Zambia is an agricultural economy still, but most of the young generation are not interested in agriculture. So there is a risk of food security. We thought about creating packages that are like short courses for even people who are working to go back and study agro-entrepreneurship. They don't need to go to school. They can sit in the comfort of their home and study this and get some interest in agriculture, especially the part of creating businesses around agriculture, so that we can ensure food security for Zambia. And this project was very important because we did it for a university in Finland that has been ranked as the most sustainable university in the world, and the most sustainable university in Finland and 14 in the world. It's based on the policies related to the green campus and sustainability in universities. And then this SOST is my personal baby, as I can call it. As a sustainability policy specialist, I was, before becoming where I am now, it just felt all overwhelming. And then I looked around me and I noticed that there are a lot of people who also look at sustainability and think it's so overwhelming. They need it to be broken down into small pieces, to be broken down, to be brought to their level. Like, how can I as an individual contribute to these global goals? So I have this platform that the motto is simplifying sustainability for everyday action. And within this, in the short time, I've been able to offer training on everyday climate action to members of the oldest and widest network of multicultural associations in Finland. I've been able to talk to a community-based association here, whose role is to enable girls and women to find their own place in society as equal and unique members. They are mostly immigrants. So you can see that on their hierarchy of what they are interested in, it is not necessarily sustainability. When you move to a new country, there are other things you're thinking about. So these people need a different kind of communication about environmental issues. They need to be treated a little bit special than those who are the natives of the country. You need to meet them at their own point of need. You can't assume that they know what it means to live a sustainable life. So there I talked about the role of tech sector organizations in integrating these women. And then SOST has also been involved in giving lectures on social sustainability as a solution to inequality and segregation in cities. And we've also had collaborations with the Association of Professional Women Engineers in Nigeria, where we did a training on the role of the individual student in achieving the SDGs. And then as a politician, as you can see from my profile, I also motivate and train women on how to get into politics, especially immigrant women or women who have moved to a new country, how they can be active citizens and possibly get into politics if possible. But I will end with, let's build a sustainable world together. We can do this, but note that we don't have time. So reach out if you think that there is something here that you can collaborate on. As the UN Secretary General said about the IPCC report, I've seen many reports, but there is nothing like the IPCC, the new IPCC report. It is an atlas of human suffering and a damning indictment of failed climate leadership. We need to rise up as the next generation of leaders and not fail on this. I think we have failed for too long. We can't fall further than we have already fallen. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for listening. Let's build a sustainable world together. Thank you.
Wow, that was so powerful. Thank you so much, Dr. THERESIA, for that excellent eye-opening and very interesting session. As Professor Mohan and you rightly pointed out, we don't have time to waste. This is our last chance to act, and every business has to work on adaptation than avoiding the topic of climate change. We have to be future ready. Thank you so much for joining us today and giving us that amazing session.